Welcome back to Fascinating History, where today we'll be discussing Dracula Vlad, the Impaler Age of Terror, and his eventual death. Dracula is the evil prince and ruler of the dead. This legendary figure sprang onto the page in 1897 from Irish author Bram Stoker's convulsive imagination. But the historical character with whom the literary icon shares a name was no less dreadful. Between 1448 and 1476, Vlad III Dracula served intermittently as the voivode of Wallachia, a principality that merged with Moldavia to establish Romania in 1859. He was a cruel, vicious ruler, notorious for tormenting his enemies. He was also known as Vlad III, Vlad Dracula, son of the dragon, and most infamously, Vlad the Impaler. And with a death count close to 100,000 people, a large percentage of them by impalement, Vlad the Impaler fits his name Dracula. Here, beneath the vast shadows, we dive into an intricate saga that transcends time and space, illuminating the legend of Vlad the Impaler. Throughout history, few names have been able to strike more terror into the hearts of people with such chilling efficacy than that of Dracula. The legendary vampire, which author Bram Stoker created for his novel of the same name that was published in 1897, has served as the foundation for an incredible number of horror films, television programs, and other spine-chilling stories linked to vampires. Despite this, Bram Stoker based Dracula on a historical figure named Vlad the Impaler, also known as Vlad Tepes, who had a thirst for blood that was much more macabre than the fictional character. The execution of foes by impalement was Vlad III's, Prince of Wallachia's, favorite way of dealing with adversaries' early life. In 1431, Vlad III was born in the mountainous region of Transylvania, which is now part of Romania. His father was Vlad II Dracula, a Wallachian prince who governed the principality that was located to the south of Transylvania. As a reward for his service to the Order of the Dragon, a Christian military order supported by the Holy Roman Emperor, Vlad II was granted the surname Dracula, which means dragon. Because of their location between Christian Europe and Muslim areas of the Ottoman Empire, Transylvania and Wallachia were frequently the sites of terrible conflicts, as Ottoman armies moved westward into Europe and Christian crusaders repelled the invaders or marched eastward toward the Holy Land. And so, in 1442, Vlad II traveled to meet with Sultan Murad II for diplomatic purposes. He took his two young boys, Vlad III and Radu, with him. The encounter, which was actually a trap, resulted in all three individuals being seized and held as hostages. The senior Vlad could only be freed if he agreed to abandon his sons to obtain his freedom. Years of captivity. During their time under Ottoman rule, Vlad and his younger brother were educated in a variety of fields, including science, philosophy, and the arts. Vlad also had the opportunity to improve his talents as a writer and a fighter during this time. However, other accounts claim that he was also imprisoned and tortured for a portion of that period, during which he would have witnessed the Ottomans' adversaries being impaled on spikes. But one thing is for sure, the remainder of Vlad's family, on the other hand, did not fare quite as well. In 1447, his father was killed in the swamps close to Balteni, Wallachia, after being deposed as the warlord of Wallachia by the boyars of the surrounding area. The oldest brother of Vlad, Mircea, was subjected to brutal treatment, including being blinded and buried alive. Whether or not these events turned Vlad III Dracula into a ruthless killer is a matter of historical speculation. But on the other hand, it is common knowledge that Vlad the Impaler's reign of blood began almost immediately after the murders of his family, when he was released from Ottoman captivity. In 1453, the Ottomans launched an attack on Constantinople, which created an invasion risk for all of Europe. The defense of Wallachia against an attack was entrusted to Vlad, who was granted command of an army for the purpose. It is reported that in the course of the victorious defense, he personally executed his opponent, Vladislav II, in a fight. Even though he was now in control of the Principality of Wallachia, his territories were in a terrible situation due to the continued conflicts and internal instability caused by competing boyars. And to further establish his control, Vlad held a feast for many people. But because he was aware that his authority would be called into question, he decided to have his guests stabbed to death and then have their bodies impaled. The Reign of Terror. What is impaling? The practice of impaling someone involves inserting a wooden or metal rod from front to back or vertically into the vagina or rectum of the victim's body. This is a particularly gruesome way to cause misery and death. In this case, it's possible that the victim's neck, shoulders, or mouth are where the exit wound is located. In certain cases, the pole was rounded rather than sharpened, so as not to cause damage to the victim's internal organs and to prolong the amount of time they had to suffer. The victim's anguish was then demonstrated by lifting the pole to a vertical position. It may take the person who was impaled anywhere from a few hours to a few days to pass away. The brutality of Vlad the Impaler's leadership cannot be denied, despite many people giving him credit for bringing peace and order to Wallachia. In 1459, hundreds of Saxon merchants in Kronstadt who had supported the boyars in the past were also put to death by being impaled. During a meeting with Vlad the Impaler that took place in 1459, the diplomats insisted on keeping their hats on, since doing so was part of a religious ceremony. While Vlad commended the ambassadors on their commitment to religion and made sure that they would always wear hats, he nailed them to their heads and ensured that they would always wear them. In 1462, after one of the many victories that Vlad the Impaler had over the Ottomans, he wrote to a military ally that he had slain peasants, men and women, old and young, who resided at Wallachia and Novo Selo, where the Danube falls into the sea. He went ahead to state that they were responsible for the deaths of almost 24,000 Turks, and this number does not include those whose homes were set on fire by their soldiers or those whose heads were severed. The purpose of writing this was to inform the king that by these actions he had broken the peace. But despite that, Pope Pius II was overjoyed with Vlad the Impaler's achievements over the Ottoman invaders, which were celebrated across Wallachia, Transylvania, and the rest of Europe at the time. It is believed that on one occasion, Vlad dined among a huge forest of dead soldiers who were writhing on impaled poles. However, Vlad also had a reputation that was far more malevolent. It is not known whether or not Vlad III Dracula actually dipped his bread in the blood of his victims, but stories of his awful sadism spread all across Europe. Tens of thousands of people killed. It is estimated that Vlad was responsible for the deaths of between 80,000 and 100,000 individuals in total. This includes the approximately 20,000 people that were impaled and displayed outside of Targoviste. The magnitude of the destruction caused by Vlad the Impaler, as well as the hundreds of rotting corpses that birds were picking apart, were so revolting to the Ottoman Sultan Mehmed II that he aborted his invasion and retreated to Constantinople. In the year 1476, Vlad the Impaler was killed and beheaded by Ottoman soldiers as he prepared for yet another battle against them. Mehmed II in Constantinople is said to have been awarded Vlad's head as a trophy to be displayed above the city's gates. If William Wilkinson, the British consul in Wallachia, had not written an account of the principalities of Wallachia and Moldavia with various political observations relating to them in 1820, Vlad III Dracula might have been nothing more than a historical footnote during the notoriously violent Middle Ages. Wilkinson delves somewhat far into the history of the area and discusses the infamous local warlord, Vlad Tepes. Unlike Bram Stoker's fictional Count Dracula, Vlad III actually met his end, and now only the horrific stories from his time as the leader of Wallachia still haunt people today. What do you think about the real-life Dracula? Please let us know your responses in the comment section below, and don't forget to like and share. Also hit the subscribe button to find notifications on the latest uploads on the channel, and as always, see you in the next video.